Hello and welcome back to the channel. Today I wanted to talk about health insurance for retirees moving to France, relocating to France, and what you need to know, especially for Americans who retire in France, because when you initially arrive, you will need to have international healthcare insurance in order to get your long stay visa. In fact, you can't get the long stay visa without it. And I believe you would need to have this insurance for a few months before you would be eligible to apply for the French Sécurité Sociale, the PUMa. And as I speak, I believe there's a lot of talk in the Parliament, in the French Assemblée Nationale, about this issue. So by the time you get to France, you may not even be able to simply, switch from your international health insurance to the French Sécurité Nationale, because they're trying to put some guardrails and some limits on what foreigners are able to get as far as health insurance in France. Because typically when someone retires in France from, say, the US, at that point they're 65 years old or older. um, they would not be working, so they're not contributing to the Sécurité Sociale the way that a French worker would contribute with every paycheck. Something is deducted from their paycheck, sort of like the way FICA and things like that are deducted from our paychecks in the US. And so in the US, when you are 65 or somewhere in that vicinity, you would be eligible for Medicare, right? And so then after a certain point, you wouldn't necessarily be paying your own insurance. And so in France, it's kind of a similar idea, is that you would not be paying your dues the way French workers would have to before they are eligible for retirement. And that little technical point is being reviewed by the French Parliament, because French people are saying that it's not fair, or fair, I should say, not fear, but fair, that French workers have to work for, 50 years or whatever it is and contribute to the system in order to get this quote unquote healthcare, which is really not free, just between you and me. And then to have foreigners come in at retirement age and get the same benefit and privilege, right? So it's something to keep in mind. But if you are applying for a long stay visa to retire in France, you are absolutely required to show proof of comprehensive health insurance for at least the first year in the country, right? It's part of the visa approval process, and it applies even if you are indeed covered by Medicare in the United States, because Medicare and Medicaid, for that matter, are not, or do not, cover routine medical care in France. It doesn't apply in France, right? So before you move, you'll need to secure private international insurance that covers hospitalization, doctor visits, and emergencies in France, right? Now, again, once you are living in France legally and stably, and I would say roughly after about the first 3 to 6 months of residency, you can apply to join the French public healthcare system through the PUMa, which is Protection Universal Maladie, often referred to simply as Sécurité Sociale, right? And this is the backbone of healthcare in France, right? It is not a separate retiree system just for French nationals. It is the national system that ensures workers, families, students, long-term residents, and yes, qualifying retirees who live here legally full-time, at least for the time being, right? I don't know what it will be by the time you listen to this. Again, importantly, the French healthcare system is not free. It doesn't matter who tells you it's free, including other French people. It's not free, right? There is a persistent myth. Once you arrive in France, medical care is simply provided without cost. This isn't how it works, right? The state system reimburses a significant portion of the cost of care, often between, I would say, 60 to 70% of the official rate for doctor visits, dental visits, procedures and medications and so on. And the remainder is typically covered by what's called a mutuelle, which is a supplemental insurance plan that fills the gap. Most people in France carry a mutuelle because it is what allows healthcare to feel nearly free at the point of use. And why they'll tell you, oh, it's free, but it's not free. They're paying for it. They're paying for the mutuelle every month, and they're paying into the French social security system every month from their paychecks, right? But anyway, without a mutuelle, you will pay the non-reimbursed portion out of pocket, which is about 30%, right? So most people have a mutuelle, and if you're smart, you'll get one too, especially if you're prone to be sick. So once you're approved for the PUMa, you will receive what's called a carte vitale, which is a green card, not a green card as in what we understand it to be in the US, but a card that is actually green, which you present at pharmacies, hospitals, clinics, and your doctor's appointments, right? The reimbursement portion is handled automatically. So doctors are paid quickly, prescriptions are reimbursed within days. It's a very efficient system, very digitized, and remarkably straightforward once you are inside of it, right? So for retirees moving to France, the path generally looks like this. Before arrival, you purchase private international health insurance to qualify for your visa. After arrival, roughly 3 months or so, you apply for PUMa, the Sécurité Sociale residency-based coverage that everybody on the territory gets, right? Once you are approved, you also should obtain what's called a mutuelle to fill the reimbursement gaps and minimize out-of-pocket expenses. And finally, you keep your Medicare in the US because it's just wise. It's paid up and you may need to use it at some point if you ever return to the United States, right? So yeah, as I said, the French National Assembly is currently debating how healthcare access for non-European retirees should be structured, particularly regarding contributions, and whether long-stay foreign retirees should participate in the retirement pension system or only the healthcare portion. These discussions come in cycles, right, and tend to intensify during budget negotiations. However, as of this making of this video, retirees who reside in France legally and who contribute into the system through their residency and who were and where applicable, their income. Let me just rephrase that. So as of now, retirees who reside in France legally and contribute into the system through their residency and where applicable their income-based PUMa contributions, they are eligible for health coverage as it has always been until the